We invented, the Greeks invented tragedy. These are extraordinary concepts. There is no tragedy outside of Greece and its influence. There is no hope outside of Judaism and its influence. And it was not by accident that Israel is the country whose national anthem, Hatikva, actually means hope. And where do we see it in yesterday's Sedra, and where do we see it now in 2009? In yesterday's Sedra, the Israelites had to fight the first battle they ever had to fight alone. Everything else God had done for them. But once they got through the Red Sea, they were attacked by the Amalekites. And the Torah says that Moses told the people to go out and fight a battle with the Amalekites, and they did. And Moses stood on a hill so that everyone could see him, and he lifted his hands. And the Torah says, Kasher Yarim Moshe Yadav B'Gavai Yisrael. When Moses lifted his hands, Israel prevailed. Kasher Yaniach Yadav B'Gavar Amalek. But when he let his hands drop, Amalek started to prevail. The Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah asked the question, V'chi Yedei Moshe Osot Milchama O Shovrot Milchama. Did the hands of Moses make or break war? What was it? Magic? And the Mishnah says no. When Moses lifted his hands, the Israelites looked towards heaven. And whenever they looked towards heaven, they won. When he dropped his hands, and they had to look down, they became demoralized and they began to lose. It is an extraordinary fact that the greatest empires in all of history have attacked, in some cases conquered, in some cases brutally conquered, or attempted to destroy or assimilate the Jewish people. The Egypt of the Pharaohs, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, the Alexandrian Empire, the Ptolemies, the Seleucids, the Roman Empire, all the way through to the Christian and Muslim empires of the Middle East, to the two great tyrannies of the 20th century, the Third Reich and the Soviet Union. Every one of those empires seemed invulnerable in its time, and every one of them has disappeared from the arena of history, while this tiny people, our people, can still sing Am Yisrael. Why? Because we were the people who exemplified in our history to a way it is almost unbelievable. That great statement of Zechariah, Lo l'chai, v'lo b'koach ki im beruchinu Hashem, not by might or by strength, but by my spirit, says the Lord. We never had great numbers, but we had spirit. And whenever we were inspired, we were undefeated. This brings me to the present. For 7 years, between that famous handshake in 1993 on the White House lawn, Shimon Peres, the late Yitzhak Rabin, Yasser Arafat engaged in a peace process. That collapsed on the 29th of September 2000 with the beginning of the so-called Al-Aqsa Intifada, and since then Israel has been under ceaseless assault. First by the so-called Intifada, then by a wave of suicide bombings that has had no equivalent anywhere else. They were happening daily, more than daily. And then when they finally put an end to the suicide bombing through the security barrier, the extraordinary assault of Katyushas from the north and Qassams in the south, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and Hamas in Gaza. And what has been the point of these attacks? Everything the Lebanese might have wanted, they had. Israel pulled out completely from Lebanon. Everything the people of Gaza could possibly want, they had. In 2005, the Israelis pulled out of Gaza, leaving all the land, it's yours. All the factories, they're yours. All the farms, they're yours. Have it all. There was no military logic to Hezbollah and Hamas whatsoever. No military logic, no political logic, only for religious logic, that they are opposed in principle to the very existence of a Jewish state. And very early on, already in late 2000, I sat down with the then Israeli ambassador. I forgot who it was in 2000. It doesn't matter because the point is general. I said, I want you to know what Israel's enemies are trying to do. In the past, they tried to put Israel in a military crisis, and they failed. Then they tried to put, via the wars, 48, 67, 73. Then they tried to put Israel in a political crisis, and they failed. The 75 resolution. Zionism is racism. Then they tried to put Israel into an economic crisis, and they failed. Now, they are going to try and put Israel through a spiritual crisis. And they may succeed. Because that is the point of terror. It has no logic whatsoever, except to make Israelis feel terrified. To sit in a bus in Haifa, a bar in Tel Aviv, a coffee bar or a restaurant, Svaras in Yerushalayim, you don't know whether you're going to come out alive. There was time when Israeli parents were sending their kids off on school buses not knowing whether they would ever see them alive again. And of course, up in the Lebanon with the Katyushas, up in the north of Israel, with the Katyushas raining down, so that one half of the population had to leave the north of Israel and escape to the south, and the other half spent 34 consecutive days in bomb shelters. And now with the situation in Gaza, even worse. Because the people of Sderot, for 7 years, non-stop, have been under a barrage of missiles and mortars, the like of which is impossible to believe. There are 7-year-old children in Sderot who have not known one moment of safety outside a bomb shelter. And it has no political or military logic. It is an attempt to break the spirit of Israel. Elaine and I come face to face with this because each year at about this time, we're going to do it in a week's time this year, we go out with 3 chazonim and the Shabbaton choir, and we do concerts for victims of terror. We've done it for the last 6 years, and of course 2 times ago it was up in the north, and then last year in Sderot, Ashdod and Ashkelon, and this year sadly again in Sderot, Ashdod and Ashkelon. It lifts people's spirits. So that is the situation. We have our English kids being intimidated on campuses. I'm sure you saw this. 17 campuses where there have been sit-ins. Some very bad experiences at Cambridge, at Oxford, at the London School of Economics, at the School of Oriental and African Studies. There was even a sit-in where I have a chair at King's College London. The vice-chancellors have been very supportive to the Jewish students, but there's very little they can do. And it's actually very, very difficult. So, the truth is, I only wish I could find some way of talking to our enemies. Because I think I have to tell them, guys, you can do many things to Jews. You can give them aggravation. You can give them high blood pressure by giving them too much to eat. You can make a special shul for them, because any time, as you've reminded us, that you make a shul, you create machlokes. You want to do bad things to Jews, it's easy. But you try and break their spirit, guys, think again. This is the people who lived through 4,000 years of suffering and never gave up faith and never gave up hope. The people of Israel, in the state of Israel, are the people who lived 2,000 years outside the state of Israel and never once for one day lost faith that one day they would return. So you're trying to break Israel's spirit, forget it. And I say to the radicals on Britain's campuses, you try and break the spirit of our Jewish students, forget it.